G'day, mate. What's your name?
I didn't know there was going to be a test. At this stage, it's not Peter Meisel.
Peter Meisel. What do you do, Peter Meisel?
At the moment, I mean, not at the moment, but for the last several years, stand-up comedy.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thanks so much for joining me. My guest today, the great Peter Meisel. Pete is a guy who's been an institution in the Sydney comedy scene for a very, very long time because he is super old. Good mate of mine. This was a really fun chat, so you're going to enjoy it. As you'll hear, he's been around forever and really, fun dude. So if you want to find out where Pete's at, he's super old, so he's not on a whole lot of social media. But you can find him on Facebook, Peter Meisel, and if you want to find out where he's up to or you want to book him, just Google Peter Meisel comedian. Now, I have a couple of shows to promote. Sydney, I'm going to be October 17, Happy Endings Comedy Club in King's Cross, doing my show Barney Lives there. That's going to be a very fun night. I'd love to sell that one out. So if you're in or around Sydney, Thursday, October 17, get into that show. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can get tickets at via the link in my bio in Instagram, or there should be a link in this show notes. Or you can go to happyendingscomedy.com. Now, the next night, I'll be in Newcastle. So if you're in around Newcastle, I'm going to be at the Cardiff RSL doing a show there with the great Tommy Dean and Steph Broadbridge. That's the three of us. It's going to be a fun night at Cardiff RSL. So if you're in Newcastle, get around those. Other than that, if you're enjoying the show, like, subscribe, all that good sort of stuff. And if you aren't already following me on social media, I'd love if you would. Once again, there's links to everything in the show notes. Other than that, probably enough faffing for now. This is, let's get into it. This is my episode with the great Peter Meisel. Stand-up comic.
Yeah.
What do you make the difference of comedian and comic?
I don't.
Is there a difference?
I'm sure there is, but I don't make the distinction.
Because comic's a real American sort of a thing, I think.
Oh, I had no idea.
Well, how would you? So how long have you been like, this is pretty much the only thing you do?
Since 1994.
Since 1994?
Yes, you'd think I'd be better at it, wouldn't you?
Wow,
yeah.
Yeah, oh, no, I some of your jokes would have gone good in 1994.
Yeah, that's true. Well, aren't these World Trade Centers looking great? And stuff like that, yeah.
So you obviously born in the States.
Yes.
In NYC?
Yep, New York, Manhattan.
20th
Street and First Stuyvesant Town, which is goes from 14th Street to 20th Street, First Avenue to the East River, which is Avenue C.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right in there. When we think
right
of New York, you are exactly where we think of.
Manhattan, yep.
Manhattan.
Walking distance to the Empire State Building, United Nations. I mean, not now. Now I don't want to walk from one room to another. But in those days, yeah, you just walk all over the city. It was great. My family never had a car.
Wow. That's amazing. But you've been in Sydney for a long time now.
I think almost as long as you've been in Sydney, in Earth.
Yeah, on Earth?
Yeah, I've been here 48 years.
Oh, way longer than I've been around.
Yeah, way longer.
Yeah. Well, at least 5 years longer.
Okay, yeah.
But so you obviously, what's that make? You came out in what, 76?
Very good.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So all I had to do was work out when I was born and then take
did it that way.
Yeah,
good. I like that. Thinking outside of the box. Yeah, January 16th, I arrived, 1976.
Wow. So were you in New York from New York to Sydney, or?
I had moved back to my parents' place. I know, traditional for comics. No, I moved back because I knew I was coming to Australia. So to save money, my then girlfriend, later to become wife, later to become divorced wife, we moved back to our homes to save money because we knew we were coming out here.
Oh, wow. So how old were you then?
1976. Well, you do the math. No, I would have been 26.
26.
Yeah.
Wow. So 26 decided to move across the world. And
no, I came out for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Well, my math isn't that good, as you can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So you arrived with the idea you'd be here for 2 years, and then Yes,
go back.
overstayed that visa.
Yeah. And by the way, thank you for taking me. I now feel like a refugee. I really appreciate living here. Uh, you want to hear an interesting story about advantages of living here? Just a quick
No,
one?
no,
Not at all. Couldn't
podcasts.
care less.
Interesting stories aren't really a thing. Go on.
Okay. Um, when we're visiting in LA, my wife had a severe migraine to
When's
the
this?
oh, 2009, 2011,
Okay,
something like
so in
that.
the last sort of
Yeah. And she had a severe headache where they had to call. It was so bad they thought it might be an aneurysm. We thought it might be an aneurysm or spinal meningitis. Called an ambulance. This is in LA. For some reason, they send with the ambulance. They send a fire engine.
Okay.
Which, well, the joke's on them. I mean, if the ambulance catches fire, we're safe. But so she spent the morning, like starting like 4 or 5 a.m. in the hospital. She was there just for the morning, and it cost $18,000 for a morning. And luckily, we were insured. About a month ago, my wife had. I really need to trade her in. My wife had SVTs, and she had to spend 2 nights in the hospital.
What are SVTs?
We can't get your heart rate down.
Okay.
Not as serious as it sounds, but this one wouldn't go away, so Laura had to call the ambulance. The ambulance came without a fire engine. So she came home. The next day, she had a severe migraine again. Again, didn't know what it was. So we went back to the hospital, and she spent the day there, the whole day there. So that's 3 days. It cost zero.
Yeah.
So when I hear medicine is socialism, it's ridiculous. Thank God. And I should have known that because the hospital in LA, the Twinkies in the vending machine were overpriced and stale. Now, I found that's what really got me outraged.
What is a Twinkie? Like,
Oh.
I've heard it. I know it's some sort of.
They sell it here in some stores, and it's like a sponge cake with whipped cream in the middle and chemicals throughout.
Yeah.
They used to be better tasting, but now they do seem chemically.
Do you think they used to be better tasting, or do you think you moved countries, didn't get as many? Because I remember when and I've only been to the States once, and it was nigh on 20 years ago. But one of the things that got me, because I was there for 2.5 months, that by the time I wanted to come home, by the time I was coming home, the thing I was looking forward to was like just less sweetness in the food. Like everything seemed to have a sweeter, like even bread felt like it had a
sugared,
sweeter taste.
As a kid, though, you love sugar, so
Yeah.
maybe you may be, and you probably don't hear this a lot, right?
Yes.
You may have gotten more. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm not sure it's the taste. It tastes a lot more chemically now. Maybe I'm more sensitive to that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're not used to the amount of preservatives and stuff. So because I was thinking about this today, like you have been, so obviously moved here 94, started in 94, or
Comedy.
full time
Comedy.
comedy.
Yeah,
in
full
94.
time, but I've never, and I know you're going to be surprised, I've never made a living out of it. Ever. I know, what a shock. So yeah, that's since 94 full time because I was a teacher. I taught for 18 years until the incident. And I taught.
I see. I didn't know if you were 100% joking then.
No, I taught teach for 18 years, but I did end up taking the New South Wales Department of Education training to court and winning.
Oh,
So then I got a fairly small lump sum, but they did medically retire me. So I got my superannuation early. And so, yes, I've been a full-time comic, but if I wasn't lazy, I could have had a job and made some money as well. But why bother?
well, yeah. Why?
Because I knew my career's going to take off any day now.
Yeah, because I was thinking about when I started. I started, my first gig was end of 2009, so I started properly around 2010. And you were a bit of an institution around the place. I
Yes,
remember going
a mental institution around the place.
no, but going to Mike in Hand and that sort of stuff. So when did you actually start comedy in Sydney?
It'll be October 91. So it'll be 33 years next month.
So, because it's funny talking to, because I talk to a lot of newer comedians on this, and talk to them.
Young
They're
punks. Go
well.
on.
It's just even in the short time I've been doing it, I've not like the changes in how you like there wasn't sign up open mics when I started as much. There wasn't any of that.
There were when I. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
interrupted
yeah.
you.
So this is what I'm
Oh,
asking.
sorry.
How like those changes since like obviously since '91. How like what was the scene like then?
When I started, there was the Comedy Store did open mic, which it no longer does, and there was Harold Park Hotel, which was legendary. That I mean, Robin Williams showed up for that, and I opened for him. Um, and I remember saying when Robin Williams came to Harold Park, I said, Robin Williams, Robin Williams, don't you just hate name droppers, Robin Williams.
Jesus,
No,
mate.
no, but those were the only two rooms. It was not. It wasn't hard getting on either place. I remember it started to get harder, but I remember one place Julia Morris was emceeing, and she begged me to do 15 minutes as an open mic. It was only open mic, and I did. I pretended I had a stutter because it was pretty new, but they couldn't fill up the lineup. Now, my God, it's just incredible how many people are dissatisfied with their present jobs.
Yeah. So yeah, there's so many. So there were obviously not as many comics back then. Not as many rooms, but not as many comics.
There were fewer comics back then. A lot. It's fine. I don't know how it grew.
Who who started around the same time as you?
Oh, a lot of people, and I'll say their names because everybody except for me and Peter Green became really famous. Umbilical Brothers, Carl Barron, Peter Barnett started a little earlier. Akmal Sally, who at the time was known as Peter Sally, which is a story in itself. Who else? There were so many more. Gary Who, Gary Eck, um, many more.
Wow. So you like just and
Darren
all new.
Sanders. Oh, what's his name? Jim Jeffries.
Oh
I'm just
wow.
think who else became famous. So I know a lot of famous people, which isn't fully true. I know a lot of people became famous and I've never heard or seen them again. In fact, I'm surprised I got to see you. He's doing very well,
Yeah.
which shows you don't have to be handsome to get by in comedy.
Mate, well, this is the thing, mate. It's yeah, I've risen all the way to the state where I've got a podcast, which I know,
And
yeah, they're hard to get. Barely anyone's doing them, so yeah, I'm killing it, mate. Thank you. But so starting then, how did you like? Was it were those open mics? Was it a turn up, sign up, or was it
No, you just showed up, and usually there were just about the right number of comics to do it. Later on, some people you didn't sign up. You went there, and the person who was doing it sent certain people home. And it wasn't done on well, you were here last week. You weren't. We want the best show possible. We'll take you and you. So I remember going home a lot. But yeah, and then they try and give you a chance. It was hard. And I've run rooms as well, and I always thought I could really understand how room runners get the. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Get the shits with some of the comics. Some of the arrogance of some. Most are great. I mean, most are so good to see. They're so fun to be with. They're neurotic enough to be humble and kind, but you get a few jerks.
So when you started running rooms, where were they? Where did you run?
Let's see. I had one at Hill Street Tavern in Hurstville, which is long gone. It was a trivia night followed by comedy, and you had people like Carl Barron, and and there was another one.
What was young Carl Barron like when he first started?
Hilarious. First night on, hilarious. Remember saying to him, I said, Carl Barron, Carl, don't you? No, no. I said to him, because his facial expressions, a raised eyebrow.
Yeah.
And I said, once you're on TV, they're gonna love you. And sure enough, he's on the Footy Show, and his career. We had paid him like 2-3 weeks earlier at a Wentworthville room that I was managing, $150. Then all of a sudden, the raised eyebrow, the little facial expressions. Yeah, and that I was right. That may have been the last time.
So
no, he picked you. Peter Green and I picked comics that we think will go on to bigger and better things. So you were one of the ones we picked.
Well, you can't be right all the time, Pete.
No, we were we were as amazed as you. No, no, we yeah.
So like, yeah, you see Carl Bat. So you Hill Street Tavern, like, so who were you running those with? Were you on your own?
Hill
Like,
Street Tavern was my own. It was a trivia which
mm,
somebody asked me to do, so I did it. Then I did one on the corner of Parramatta Road and Crystal Street, where that was one of the locations of the Comedy Store.
I
And that
remember,
was
yeah.
doing great because they would have a banner out tonight. They put, comedy tonight. So if you're stuck on Parramatta Road driving and you're looking at this sign for 30 minutes as you creep along, council made them take it down. So if one night having over 100 people working our way down to where they canceled the show
Wow.
because it's just ads, but because the shows were great. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think who else. Oh, when I first started, just after Kitty Flanagan, Julia Morris.
Now were they two that you picked?
It was
Which,
before I was picking, but yes, Julia Morris, first time on, she killed. Kitty Flanagan, first time she was on, she killed. And she said later on, if had I not gone well, you've said the same thing. Had it not gone well, you probably wouldn't have done it a second time. Now, why you cared whether Kitty did well or not is beyond me.
yeah,
But no, you
inspired
said
me.
that. You said that though. You said if you didn't, if it hadn't gone well the first night, and I obviously have more resilience because it didn't for me.
So what was your first time like? And why what was it about like comedy all of a sudden? Because you've moved here in so you said you moved here in
76.
76.
I've always wanted to do it.
You've been a teacher all that time.
I'd been a teacher since, I became a full-time contracted teacher when I got here. I'd worked in the States for a year doing casual teaching. But yeah, it's full-time teacher. Always wanted. A friend of mine was a librarian at Heckenberg Primary School. Um, Also American from Texas, and her husband became friends. Go dinner. They had two daughters. No, this is not like a farmer's daughter thing.
Yeah.
But as she got older, she always thought I was funny. God bless her. And her name is Michelle. And she said, "You're doing comedy." I go, I don't, I'm afraid. And so she went with me 4 times. We watched open mic. And then she said, "Next week you're going on." My inability to say no to anybody, so I went on. But I'd practice. It was done by rote. It was done by word for word.
Mm.
But unfortunately, no matter how, even at school, like we study something, you memorize it, but when you get on a different part of the brain, no, we're not speaking to each other. So instead of 5 minutes, which I worked on, um, I think I did 2. The following week, 4, and then the last time I did 5, and the third one, not the last time, the third one, and I got laughs. And I came out, and there was Gary Eck outside, and this other guy, Jason Tootie, who went on to filmmaking, I think. And I came out, and I was with Michelle, and I went, and then they came over and they said, "It's great, isn't it?" And they were, yeah, I was hooked. I was hooked.
So third time before you felt like you got laughs.
I've gotten laughs, hee hee, ha ha's,
But
polite laughs.
yeah, before it kicked in that you felt like you'd actually got what you hoped you were
It
going to
would be
get.
the beginnings thereof. And it was nerve-wracking. I was one of, for the first, I don't know, 2 months, my leg would shake. I wouldn't take the mic out of the stand. So one time, and I always say to the MC, please don't forget to lower the mic, because I'm very polite. And one guy forgot, I think it was Adam Hills. So I'm standing on my tippy
You
toes.
can drop a name,
I
can't
can, but he was another one. He was just sort of starting out. You asked earlier, and so I'm standing on my tippy toes to talk to the mic, and then he came out and lowered it and said, "Oops, my bad, or my mistake."
So you were just too nervous to even
I
touch the
couldn't have. I
mic
was
stand.
terrified what would happen. Now I,
That's
yeah,
so. That's such a That's such an interesting
oh,
thing for you to
terrified.
be.
Still get nervous before a show, but the good news is I've been bad so often. It's oh well.
So who like so? But that at that age, what were you like? I'm just trying to do some maths. By 91, you're 41.
I would have turned 42. Is that right? 40. Yeah, I would have turned 42 that year.
So but all these people you're talking about, like the scene. What's the general age of the
They were in
scene?
their late 20s. A lot of them are still doing it. They were very nice. It wasn't. They were all. The guys like Peter Green was in his 20s. Jason Ryder in his 20s. I worked
Rash Rider.
Rash Rider. I
Yep.
worked with him the other day, and he was sitting by the Jason Rider I worked with last Saturday. Looks like he ate the former Jason Rash Rider.
Shots fired.
No,
Hopefully Rash doesn't
I hope he
listen
does.
to the podcast. Oh, you hope he
I
does.
hope he does. Do you want to hear one of the worst gigs I had?
Yes,
There were
please.
plenty to choose from. I was doing a corporate, and it was poorly organized. It was poorly organized in the sense that they had 3 comics on. Now, people don't go to these corporate Christmas dinners.
So it's a Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
What type of company were we talking?
I can't even remember what type, but it was multi-rate, blah blah blah, and there was a table of the big shots, the dais, and but people go there to network, and so 3 comics was ridiculous. The first comic was to hear.
How long are you all doing?
Well, that's an interesting theory right there. Supposed to do 20 each, which is ridiculous.
So an hour out of their evening
Yes.
is because people don't understand that comedy, when they book comedy, or they don't always think it through. Comedy it works if the audience sit and listen. They need to be listening.
It gets
So
worse.
you're getting an hour out of. So I'm just helping you paint the picture here. We're getting an hour out of
Well, this is where the mistake
a Christmas party.
You were supposed to. Tahir did 20, killed it, did a really good job. The next guy, Bobby Clark.
Bobby Clark.
Yeah, Bobby C. He's passed away since then. He did an hour.
He did an hour.
And then it was my turn to go on. And they were really kind of still nice about it. But it's just started to get ugly towards the end, with the head of the company, the CEO, comes over and he takes me by the arm and goes, "That's enough." This is just I got to my 101 Dalmatian coloring book. And again, this was early in the piece, so I'm absolutely devastated. As I'm passing the dais, another guy yells, "You're the worst comic I've ever seen." And I'm ready to weep. But later on, what I should have said when the guy's dragging me off stage, "So I won't be here next Christmas." And when the guy said, "You're the worst comic I've ever seen," I should have said, "Well, I'll tell the second worst. He's been promoted." But I never got to that. I was really, don't drive into the tree, don't drive into the telephone pole, because I didn't know enough. I didn't know that when you do a dinner, you don't want an hour and 20 minutes of comedy. No, in fact, at a comedy show, you don't want an hour and 20 minutes of comedy, basically.
No one wants anyone doing an hour at a corporate event. I've had people when they inquire and that we get you come up and you do an hour. Like, you don't want an hour.
No.
You want people to socialise.
15 minutes, if it's going well, maybe 20 is my limit.
Yeah,
because I don't have more material. So I
was going to say, geez, you've been writing.
Yeah, I've been very busy. And again, that stutter I pretend I have.
Well, you've got the ladder back out, the bird ladder.
I have tried it recently again.
Really? You're back to doing
it? I have trouble selling it.
This is one of my earliest memories. You had this bit that was a sort of just a bit of a I don't want to say legendary because I don't want to pump you up too much.
No, please.
But it was a bit that everyone knew, that Peter Meisel did this bit about the bird ladder.
Yes.
And it was then you used to sell it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think my other material is so much better it doesn't hold up. But you want a story about the bird ladders?
Yes.
They used to have plastic ones. Now they would, the good ones. So I used to sit on them and break them periodically because they were plastic.
Yep. Because they were in your pocket.
Because in my back pocket.
Yeah, you weren't just sitting on.
Yeah, I wasn't just so good. Here's another one I could sit on. They feel so good So you go to like Woolies, and I buy like a dozen bird ladders, and the woman would look at me as if my canary had a construction business. Why do you possibly need 12 bird ladders?
So because the other one is the Dalmatians coloring book. How many of them?
That story. I went to
because I don't think you can get them anymore.
No, you can't. I've got plenty. If there's an apocalypse and you need coloring books to survive, people will be coming to me and bowing. I went to South Hurstville News Agency, no longer exists. I happened to see one because I love the movie. I open it up, I go, oh my God, this is brilliant. I bought all of them. So if you were going to see...
Do you want to explain to people listening what
you open a coloring book. And by the way, people become dumber or they don't use coloring books anymore. So you open a 101 Dalmatian coloring book, and there are these dogs, just, I think, one on one side and two on the other. and it's the fold out, it's the centerpiece, and they're black and white. There's nothing to do. And then you go page by page, and there's nothing to do. Even the maid's outfit is black and white. It's constant. And now I open it up, and people just go, and I have to say, what are you supposed to do? And then they start laughing. There was a time you opened and they laughed. So I go to South House first, I open it and go, this is incredible. And I'll tell you in a second how I knew I was onto a good thing. So I bought them all. So if you ever looked at the sales records, it would have been 000 South Hurstville 000. So I come home and I show this to my wife, and she goes, "That's not funny. Nobody's going to laugh." She's English, so I knew it's hilarious. And then, because I panic easily, when the movie came out with Glenn Close playing,
Yes.
they came out with another coloring book. No, they came out with the same coloring book with a different color. So I went to a news agency and I bought all of those just in case I ever did get famous and I have to do this several shows a night. Haven't even touched those yet.
It's so now there is a story that I've heard tell of that Peter Green.
Oh, the best. I mean, yeah.
So tell that story because I love this.
We were at Bridge Hotel. I said, "Peter, can you watch my bag? I have to go to the men's room." He goes, "Sure." 6 months earlier, Peter Green had bought 101 Dalmatian coloring book and colored it in. Now you think the dogs are black and white, but no, he colored the dogs in different colors. There was background, there were diamond shapes. So I get on stage. As I get on stage, he's now substituted. I take it out, and as I'm holding it, I'm going, "My one wasn't this new. I don't. This seems newer." And I open it; it's colored in. Fortunately, Peter Green, being Australian, he only did 2 or 3 pages of coloring, so I could go to any of the other pages. Do you know how I got back at him?
How?
I sent him a manila envelope, registered mail, where you had to, they couldn't just deliver to the address. The signatory, the person it was addressed to, had to be the one to sign it.
Sign for it, yep.
So it was an empty, I just sent him an empty envelope, sealed, blah, blah, blah. It read, Peter Green, President of the Premature Ejaculators Club, and his address. My hope was, and it turns out to be true, that he had to go to the post office and go to the lady, and I hope it was a lady, and sign for it.
Jesus.
Yeah, I was proud of that.
That's
Sorry.
not bad. That's
And
not
we've been
bad.
friends ever since.
Oh man. So okay, moving through then. So you start around
the
90s.
Yep.
You get right into it. 94, you're pretty much doing it full time.
Yeah,
Such as it is.
Such as it is. Still only 2 rooms, I think.
Did you what do you reckon the peak was? Where do you feel like
Mine or for comedy?
yours? Where's the gig you look back at and go, that was
The best.
the best?
Oh, that's
Or is it still to come?
I don't know. There've been some absolutely great ones. There've been some absolutely awful ones.
Because everyone talks about we all love to talk about the awful ones, because then you get, I don't know, it's a bit of like gallows humor or a bit of camaraderie in the,
Everybody,
we've all had
yeah. You know what else? And just quickly for you young kids out there,
I need
which
to
is
be
anybody in their 60s constitutes. Very important in how well you're going to do is where you are in the lineup. I'll tell you, one of the bad gigs I had was following you. You did such a great job. It's one of Adam Dean's who did such a great job as the MC. It was a small guy. There was one table. Do you remember this? That by the time I came on,
Where were we? Because we've done a few of those.
yeah. Are you saying I've died at several of them?
No, I don't remember you dying.
This was there were other tables
To be
that like
honest,
me.
I'm not listening.
No, I know. I hate comedy. But no, you had done so well. You had interacted with the audience. You tried to bring them back down, but they didn't want to go back down. Fortunately, I solved that problem the minute I walked on stage. I brought them right down. That was a tough one. That wasn't the worst one, but I was for Adam Dean. Yeah. No, some of them are just great. Some of them, when you go off, like I don't really have a script. I would if I could memorize one, but when you go off, when you enter, and You're okay at it. That almost slipped out. When you interact with the audience, you are very quick. Um,
Yeah, I think
very quick.
some of that comes from there's been periods where I'm just bored with my own material, so wander into
Yes,
the audience.
I'm bored with your
But
material.
I'm also a big believer like that, and I think part of the fun of the night is you're creating something that's just for that room
Yes.
then and there. And so, like, if something's happening in the room or something weird happens or there's something in the room,
You can feed off it.
to acknowledge that you can acknowledge and sort of mess around with, to get everyone, it draws everyone in to feel like, oh, this is just happening now. This
But
is live.
you have to be careful when you're in for a room. I remember I did a room that was filled with it was mostly blind people, and my mime act was an absolute disaster.
Jesus.
I'm in a box, God damn it! Oh, I'm pulling a rope. My goodness, it's windy. just didn't go over.
I can't imagine. Especially for the people who aren't blind.
yeah, that's right. They didn't even like it.
So, yeah, when did, like, because comedy, I suppose, comes and goes in waves, and at the moment,
Yes.
like, I feel like we're in a, like, I feel like there's more. I know, and it's hard to tell for me because I don't know if it's because I'm in it, I'm more aware of it. I feel like there's more comedy around,
Yes.
and people are a bit more aware of it. But I also feel like there's many more people doing comedy than probably,
Should
any
be.
time.
No, that's, and it's good because a lot of them. I did a show at Kelly's, and I was in the grand final, but I told the guys running it, because most of the comics were they said it was open for everybody, but all the other comics in the grand final were like less than a
Are you
year.
doing comedy competitions?
Yes, but that's why I told them.
Still?
I told them not to conclude me, and God bless them, they didn't. But that was the other thing. So there were all these young comics, and they were fantastic. I mean, they were doing 4 or 5 minutes, so they had as good a 4 or 5 minutes as any of us have. Hopefully, we have more than a great 4 or 5 minutes. Something I'm aiming for. But they were spectacular. They let me do 11 because I knew I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And I was having such a great time. I mean, anytime you get 3 totally bald guys sitting together or in their 40s, hey, all of a sudden, in the middle, all of a sudden I had this, as I said, all of a sudden I have this uncontrollable urge to go bowling. And they laughed.
Just making fun of these poor blokes.
There's not much left. I'll tell you what, the people you can make fun of is getting less and less. I've given up recently making fun of people with red hair. Have to. So, well, you don't.
Yeah, I don't know this. Because I'm wondering about this, like, in terms of, like, I think just in the time that I've been doing it, seeing the change of what sort of audiences will and won't go for, and in terms of like their like stuff I would say on stage, like there's jokes I used to do that I wouldn't do now.
Same.
And I think that's like part of me is like you hear a lot about this, and I get asked about it all the time. Like I was away on doing a gig recently, and I was chatting to these guys, and they're older, but they're all, how do you deal with this wokeness? Like, is it? And I'm like, I don't feel like it's as big a thing as
they make out.
Yeah.
The other thing, when you're this age, 75, I know I don't look, but it's true, and they're more tolerant. Look at the grumpy old man.
Yeah, but
but
do you feel like there is stuff? Because
there's stuff I've gotten rid of.
Yeah, there's stuff I've definitely gotten rid of, but I think part of it is me going, like, as I learn
More
and
sensitive.
as I evolve as a like, with society, everyone sort of evolves. You go, okay, yeah, if that's going to upset people,
yeah, exactly.
I'm
That's
happy
not
to
the
let
point.
it go. Yeah.
When this is over, I'll tell you those ones I can't do anymore. No. But
no, it's over now. The camera's off, Pete, go. Finally, we cancel Peter Meisel.
But the one with the redhead. So after the show, this was at Newtown Hotel. My grandson, by coincidence, my eldest one is 21. I think he was 20 at the time. This lady comes from Newtown Hotel and she's furious because this comic, she's talking to my grandson. This comic had made fun of her red hair or whatever. I can't even remember the actual person, but I believe her because I do that. And my grandson goes, "Oh, what did he look like?" "Oh, he's got a mustache, he's older, he's got an American accent, he's fairly short." At no point did my grandson ever go, "That's my grandfather."
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, boy.
Thanks. Well, he's supposed to get in trouble for you,
Yeah.
for your mouth.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like I don't know. I don't know that the
What have you?
redheaded-
Oh, okay, yeah. Your stuff is quite. It's going to sound awful. When I know I don't mean it. Your material is insipid. No, it's kind. You have kind. Your stuff is kind. It's nice. It's
Yeah.
family oriented. I mean, about your family. And I've met your family, so it could be a lot worse. Although the dog's lovely. No, I've known your kids. Can I tell them about the first time I met your kids?
Yeah, sure.
You know how kids, they were younger, obviously. How kids color things and color like trees, for example. Your elder son was literally coloring a tree with chalk.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah, of course. He didn't like the color that the tree was, so he was coloring it in.
Well, that was a good fun activity. They used to love, because that was our old front yard. There was the
East Hills.
the big tree in the front yard, and there's a big rock and footpath. So yeah, the chalk. They loved getting out and just drawing on the footpath or the rock or occasionally the tree. Right? Why limit yourself, Pete?
Why? Yeah.
Why limit
If
yourself?
only they invented some sort of material you could lay on a table and do it there.
Yeah, but
Lifestyle.
Get outdoors, kid. You know what I mean? What am I going to buy paper?
When you have a perfectly good tree
what?
that could be turned into paper.
Yeah, I mean, cut down a tree, turn it into paper, just so you can do.
When you have a tree,
go to the source. That's what I say.
I'll bet you'll be using that the next day.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I don't know that I do so much nice, but I don't. I don't know. I honestly don't think there's as much restriction on what people. I mean, there. I don't know. I don't know.
No,
what
I
the
don't think
solution
it's
is.
as bad as somebody said. I wish you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
You don't want, if somebody doesn't come back, so be it.
But also, I think if you look at comedy, none of it ages super well. Like
Except Dalmatians. You can't go buy Dalmatians. I wish I'd make a movie 103 Dalmatians or whatever they're up to now.
Mate, but this is the thing. Like it's like there's stuff like that that's sort of that timeless, but then there's other comedy that's of its time.
Yeah.
And yeah, you watch some great specials and stuff now, and it from times past, and there's whole chunks that you go, "Whoa, you wouldn't do that."
Yeah, I had to drop my bits on the Korean War. It was just
no one knew what you were talking about.
I'd never had that, but you know, like it's just funny to see how some comics do hold up. Bob Newhart's sketches I think hold up. George Carlin's material holds up. In fact, maybe even more so now, where he doesn't seem extreme. He goes, he was right.
But I wonder though. That's because you experienced Carlin at a younger age. When
Yes.
your mate was, I'd love to know the perspective on young, like, you know, guys in their early 20s now, if they watched a Carlin bit, whether that to them is as fresh a take.
Good question. That's a
because
good point.
I think too sometimes that stuff suffers from Carlin in it, like he influenced so many other comedians.
Yes.
That you've seen derivatives of it, but if you never saw the original, that just looks like another
guy
thing.
doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know that picture with who's the famous comic who got arrested?
Or you're gonna have to be more specific.
Yeah, I will too. Wait,
Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce. There's a picture of him being led away. In back, there's another comic.
Yeah.
And that was George Carlin.
Really?
Yeah, most people don't know that. As a young, clean-cut George Carlin, yeah, most people don't realize that, which I found interesting. It took me, I didn't know that for like a long time.
So before you left the States, so you said you always wanted to do stand-up comedy.
Yes.
Did you go to stand-up comedy? You're in like New York's scene now is very much a mecca of stand-up comedy.
I've actually worked there a few times.
Yeah, but so when you were like growing up, going out in New York,
Never went to a comedy show.
never went to a comedy show.
No, no, one summer,
Because the 70s, like who would you have seen then?
well,
You could have seen Lenny Bruce.
I could have seen all these people. I did see Thelma Diamond. She was, I think, on Night Court. She played, I don't know, but she she played not a guard, whatever they were, security.
Bailiff?
Bailiff. God.
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah. And she was the only one I've ever saw, because we went to the Catskills, like you see in Mrs. Maisel. They went to, and we went to a smaller place, but so we had her, and she was great.
What was that? So, because this fascinates me, the idea of going away to the Catskills. So you grew up Jewish, New York, in a Jewish neighborhood, or were you
half Jewish? Oh, not half Jewish.
a mix?
About 40% Jewish, 40% Irish Catholic, and 20% mixture of others.
So, and the Catskills was very much a Jewish thing?
Yep, the Jewish people went to the Catskills. Christian people either went to the Jersey Shore or the Poconos. So you'd go to these areas that were like 99% of the people there were Jewish. And they had entertainment, and they had bands and musicians, and
so is it like camp, or what?
No, it wasn't camp. You either stayed in the main hall, or you rented a little cabin, and they had the dining room, a swimming pool, boating lake, activities for kids, which was another way of get my kids and get them out of here. I don't want to see. I don't want to see a kids club, craft. If I made one more potholder, I was going to scream. So we went to those, and at the time I loved them. The last time I was forced to go, I was 17. My parents went for 10 days. I only had to go for a week because they didn't trust me, and perhaps rightfully so. But up until then, it was really fun because you sat at the kids' table or people your age table.
So did you have friends from there, that you'd see every year?
No, because we went to different places, and I think there was one place where they came back where I saw the same person, the same thing. But that was the hard part, meeting new people. I'm very shy, or was, and when I hadn't peaked at my full height of 5'8", I felt tiny. I was shorter than
this is the olden days. People were smaller back then. I'm like,
yeah. I remember me, grumpy, bashful Doc, just sitting around going, "Great being average height."
But that's so you what? I'm still a bit fascinated with this because my impression of this is Meisel, or I suppose the other version is is Dirty Dancing. That style thing.
Yeah, that was sort of.
Was
I
that
never
more
watched.
Poconos?
No, I never. No, I think that was still the Catskills. I never saw that movie in its entire. I hate musicals.
It's not a musical. It's just a movie with dancing and songs,
which I define as a musical. It wasn't a musical, just a lot of songs and dancing.
No, a musical's where like the cast are singing as part
dancing.
Of the
How are you? How am I?
Yeah. Where they sing, they sing, and then all of a sudden it stops, and they don't acknowledge that they just broke into song. Whereas they
for
were
no apparent reason.
Yeah, they were actually dancing.
Yeah. No, I didn't see the thing, so I'm not sure. But Mrs. Maisel was a fairly accurate. The dancing. They had a dance teacher come to teach. It was like 99% women taking dance lessons. But it was fun. It was really fun. Edgewood Inn was a really good one. I really enjoyed that a lot. You bonded with your parents. I still wasn't at the stage where I was pretending I was an orphan. So, yeah. Plus, there was no pressure. Nobody was telling you to do schoolwork or go to Hebrew school.
So so it's just activities so what were your were you sports like basketball?
Oh, there was no, basketball I was never good at. It was more like softball. Softball's a big thing.
Yep.
So the camp and you'd play other resorts nearby. So Edgewood Inn would play somebody else, and it was great fun. It was really good.
Oh wow! So how far is the Catskills from New York itself?
From New York City, probably would go somewhere an hour and a half away, 2 hours away by bus. And again, we didn't have a car, and then somebody would come from the resort and take you there. Because as I say, never had a car.
This is an interesting because having grown up in Australia where and I was grew up a lot in the country. If you didn't have a car, or a push bike, you weren't getting anywhere, and the push bike was just for around town.
Yeah, and I had a push bike for the neighborhood, but later on I started to take it like go for a ride to Macy's or something.
To Macy's.
To Macy's, yeah. I'll go to Macy's, have a look around.
Did you? What was New York City like in those days? Is it like in terms of safety and that sort of stuff? Because I know the '70s was renowned for it got pretty bad.
'80s and '90s was the worst. It started to go downhill in the '70s, but I thought it was great. I really appreciated growing up, except for the anti-Semitism. I really appreciated.
Are you sure it was everyone, not just you?
Well,
it may have been
I
anti-Pietism.
I was suspicious that other Jewish kids were beating me up too. But no, I mean, I remember being called a Christ killer, which I thought was unfair, as I had an alibi for that day. I happened to have been in Nazareth, not Jerusalem. Oh, and it was 2,000 years earlier. But yeah, that up until 60 something.
You're looking for the Italians. The Romans.
Yeah, Romans. Yeah, yeah. But then one of the best restaurants in the neighborhood, local, which was Vic's restaurant, Vic Morosco, and then so they liked him. No, it was more community oriented. I mean, the stores were a lot of mom dad shops or little stores. It's not now, everything is so big and generic. But the downside was my neighborhood had 35 to 40,000 people. Starts in town, Peter Cooper. 110 buildings, all buildings 11, 12, 13 stories tall, 8 apartments per floor on average. It was all white.
Oh, wow.
All white. And the Metropolitan Life Insurance, who owned it, had made a deal with Robert Moses. Ironically, Robert Moses didn't free his people, this one. And yeah, and as a kid, you didn't notice that. And even if I did, and I did ask my mom as I was getting a little older, before double digits age, how come there are no black people? And she said, oh, they have a similar situation further, I don't know if in Harlem or in the South or somewhere, where they had a miniature size of town just for black people. And even then I knew there's something wrong with this. And then when eventually, I remember going back for a visit. I specifically remember the year 1984 at Playground 10, which is where all the Jewish kids ended up because we're getting beat up in other playgrounds. There was an Asian kid, a couple of black kids, Hispanic kid. They all lived in Stars Town, and they were choosing up sides. And it was still early days. I remember them asking the girl if she wanted to play. There was one girl that, did you want? And she said no that day for whatever reason. But now, none of that. When we were kids, we played ball. The girls sat on the bench, held out jewelry, what there was of it.
You just lost me completely with held out jewelry.
Well, our high school ring, or
you had a high school ring.
I had a high school ring.
Oh my God, you're so American. What's behind that? Because that's just something that would never happen here.
Well, if you notice, I never wear it.
Yeah, no, but like obviously,
you take pride because I went to a school for gifted youngsters. No, really. And so it was good. Stuyvesant High School. They mentioned TV shows. People came from all over New York City, including Staten Island. Before they would take a bus to get to the ferry, take the First Avenue bus or the subway to get to this school. And I hated it. I thought it was awful. I did. The teachers I had in my first year.
You still wore the ring.
Well, it was kind of a way to brag. I mean, if I had a larger penis, I probably wouldn't have needed the ring, would I? But I didn't, so there we did. But I remember the chemistry teacher eventually got fired for not having enough courses. And he was totally bald guy before it was fashionable. And he was just a jerk. I mean, he really was. And I remember we were in a lab where he conducted experiments. And he was doing the electrolysis of water. We break it up into hydrogen and oxygen.
Yep.
And the last thing I remember him saying before it exploded was, "Come closer, boys." And when I opened my eyes, realizing, oh, I'm not dead, he's brushing glass off the top of his head. He got fired. He was terrible. He was just awful. He almost killed. But there were, James Cagney went to that school before me. Tom Robbins,
Tim Robbins.
Tim Roberts. No, the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple billion.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It was the first school on. So this started for me year 10. It was the first time ever I had in a class or in my class kids of African American backgrounds. My whole schooling was all white.
Oh wow! So was that year 10? Is that busing era, or is that just
No, this
because
was
it was a
this
gifted
kids.
school? They were drawing.
They were
from all
drawing
the
from
different areas?
everywhere.
Yeah.
I just had to cross the street. I mean, Stuyvesant High School was across the street from Stuyvesant Town, so it was very convenient. Although, because kids came from all over, like in my senior year, once you're accepted at university, it doesn't matter anymore. We would meet at the playground 10, listen to our transistor radios. If there was a subway delay, we go, oh, good, we didn't take the subway. And there was different, D train, RR, whatever. We'd go to Vic's restaurant that I mentioned earlier, have breakfast, show up at the end of first period and go, oh, the RR was delayed because that's what they told you. The guy never looked up. He had stand by your late pass excused. It didn't get recorded anywhere. You could do a different train every day. They were so incompetent.
Incompetent, but that's or did they just not care that much?
Oh no, they cared. They were some, well, I don't know if this guy did or not, but some of them did. There were a couple really tough but respected teachers. You know, you weren't allowed to leave because there were like 700 kids in my graduating class. So, and you had it 4 years. Most kids, some kids started in year 9, some started in year 10. So you had 2,000 kids. You couldn't allow them out on the streets. The restaurants couldn't. Plus, they were assholes. And so this guy would go to the same guy, Mr. McGlynn. He would go to the what was called the Greasy Spoon, which was right on the same block, and empty out. Go, you get out. How stupid! This is the gifted youngsters, and they're going to the nearest thing and wondering how they got caught.
Oh, that sounds like, I don't know. That sounds like a the simplicity of that, like not having just,
and we respected him. I mean, I didn't do it because I went further afield. I remember one of my homeroom teachers, Mr. Eifert, the shop teacher, who used to throw plane blades past kids' ears, and every Asian kid he called Lee. I mean, he was also an alcoholic. He would go in and drink from the bottle. You know, he'd do that. Every it was much easier.
It's amazing the way
amazing.
you think about those things now. So were you're like your age? Were you right in that Vietnam draft age when
I
you?
was.
How did you
I had a college deferment.
Chicken? You went to Canada?
I had bone spurs, terrible bone spurs.
Your friend Donald?
Yeah, I was online just behind him when the bone spur doctor said, no, we're shutting now. No, and then when they did a draft, a lottery, and being a loser my whole life, my lottery number was 350. So unless they invaded California and New York and Washington, I wasn't going anywhere. I was very lucky. We're none of my friends, not a single one. I can't think of a single who actually went to Vietnam.
Oh wow!
Some got into the National Guard. You know, talk about white privilege. They went into the National Guard. Some went into the reserves. No fun. I mean, one of them was based, I think, in Alabama, and the only way I'd go to Alabama is in a plane crash. Yeah, it was a terrible time. It was
because how was that? Because you remember that late 60s, early 70s period really well then, because you
extremely.
Yeah, you were 20 in 1970.
Would you stop doing this to me? I turned 21 in 1970. Yes.
Wow. So you'd remember, like, obviously Vietnam. You remember JFK, all those.
JFK, yeah, I know.
How
with JFK, if I just say, with JFK, because people my age know exactly where we were, and with JFK, I remember I was in Dallas firing a rifle on the grassy knoll. Yeah, I still have jeans with grass stains that I can't seem to get out. Go on.
No, so how was the move? Because obviously now there's like a lot of the conspiracy type stuff around that is much
with Kennedy.
Yeah. is much more broadly accepted. At the time, was it an immediate thing at the time?
Well, the Warren Commission came out and said, well, I'm going to prove to you it was a conspiracy in a second.
Oh, fuck
From recently. Prove it. You won't question it ever again. I promise. So anyway, yeah, it came out Warren Commission. Warren Commission was designed to not cover it up, but get it over with. So we don't go to World War III. They were very inefficient. They've admitted it since. Here's your proof, okay? They had this guy, it was one gunman, bolt action rifle, got 3 shots fired, hit the president twice in a moving car. Some guy with an AR-15 couldn't hit a big fat pig standing still.
Jesus, you're going to give me fucking...
Really? Really, a rapid fire rifle. Yeah, so I think, yeah. Also, did you ever listen to the tapes they made of Oswald and the notes they took? Have you ever seen those?
No.
You know why? There aren't any.
Yeah, but that was
the crime of the century.
The time. That was the
no.
They
no.
the time.
No, when I was arrested.
Anyway, this is. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy. I think that's pretty.
I'm sure he tried to. I'm sure.
Settled history.
Yeah. Well, somebody was in Dallas firing a second rifle. Sure.
No,
you know better.
It's like you fucking watch one movie, all of a sudden you fucking.
Oh, Oliver Stone's movie. I think he's nuts.
Oliver Stone is nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, I was more interested in like the mood in and around that.
So depressing. However, the worst part for me was for 3 days there was nothing on television. There was nothing.
The great empath.
The great. I was in the beginning, but oh my God, here's the. Let's show it again. I was going out of my mind. It was just, I think, pre-masturbation day, so I had nothing to do.
It's a rough wank, mate.
Yeah, yeah. So, no, I felt horrible. I thought this will bring the country together. But as I was saying, or said earlier, he died at a very convenient time. He had some really hard decisions to make, but he was good at what he did. He came across as just America. This is
It's obviously an interesting time because now I'm just picturing you. I'm picturing going back in my head to Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies, and picturing you in the background of a lot of those New York scenes. So just to try and it seems like it would have been an interesting time to be.
It was an interesting time. It was a lot of it new. Even the most liberal or left-wing leaning, or almost, not everyone. America were the good guys. Russia was terrible, godless. Better put, in God we trust on our money. The Pledge of Allegiance, it wasn't until 1954. The first years in school was already there. One nation under God, indivisible. So I am rattling it off in hand on heart.
Hand on microphone.
Microphone, sorry. Oh, that's stupid. Hand on heart going, one nation, invisible. And I never understood until maybe second grade the significance of that.
That's awesome. Mate, thanks so much for doing this. We are at about time, but
not me. I've got plenty. No, kidding.
Yeah, you're the one who demanded this.
I do. There's nap time coming up.
That's what I was going to say. Is that because of nap time?
Well, eating and sleeping. Yeah, and
you've had your 2 beers. You can go have a nice.
And let's just put my hands on my tummy and just
It's going to be fantastic. Before we go, is there anything you want to plug? I had a look. You know what I love is I meant to mention this. So I looked up earlier just to get your social media details for.
Oh, thank you.
So you could plug anything, so I can get it right for the intro later. And you know what comes up? People also ask when you're right. Peter Meisel, comedian. First question that people also ask was, who was the comedian who jumped off the Comedy Store?
I have no idea.
Remember the famous story about when the comedians were like at the Comedy Store? This would have been late 70s, early 80s, maybe. The comedians
I wasn't around.
were striking for.
Oh, that was in America.
Yes. jumped off the Comedy Store in LA.
Right, I didn't know about
Killed
this until
himself.
recently, but I don't remember who it was. We're
But
gonna...
that comes up when people Google Peter Meisel.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's people wanting you to jump off something.
Yeah. Well, some have been kind enough to give me an umbrella so I don't hurt myself when I jump off. They're so sweet, yeah. Oh.
So is there anything you want to plug? Anything?
No, I not this Saturday. A week from Saturday, Gosford at the Bay Road Brewery, which, by the way, is a great room and a lot of fun if you're up in Gosford. But thank you. I have other stuff, but I never occurred to me.
But you're on Facebook if people want to find out what you're up to
Yeah.
and get in arguments with you about politics.
Oh, you noticed that, did you? I have ex-pupils in their late 50s I'm arguing with. But you know those people who think they know everything?
Yeah.
They spoil it for people like me who do.
Jesus. All right, mate.
See, Jesus, you know.
Thanks so much for doing
Thank
this.
you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No
This was a lot of
worries.
fun.
Oh, mate.
Out of beer, are we? No.